Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Festival and Events. For this webinar, we have partner GMIST has partnered with Festival and Events Ontario. Is with us today is Debbie Main. She is the Business Development Officer. And over to you, Debbie.
Thanks, Darlene. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. My name, as Darlene said, is Debbie Mann. I'm with Festivals and Events Ontario. As you can see in my background, I have Tuesday Talks with Vio, but it is Thursday. So thank you for coming to Thursday Talks with GMIST. So welcome, everyone. I'm excited about today. I love talking to these two gentlemen and hearing more and more about their products. Today we have Simon Cusack from Raffle Box from Nova Scotia, and Mark Jordan from Tip Tap Pay, and he's from Toronto area. And they've got two amazing products. If you don't already know about them, you will hear about them right away in this hour. Not right away, but in this hour. So welcome, Mark and Simon. Really glad you took the time out to be here with us. Simon, why don't you start? And just before, a little bit of housekeeping. One, if you can add your company name to the end of your name so that Simon and Mark know who they're talking to. And second, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask them, or put it into the chat and I'll read it to them. So that's the housekeeping, and over to you, Simon.
Thanks so much. I'm really happy to be here today. I'm actually going to share a deck and just go through a few slides that I have just to give a bit of visual as I talk here. So I'm just going to share my screen, and then I'll just get you guys to let me know if we're looking good. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So Rafflebox Technologies, we started basically back in 2016. The idea sort of came to one of our CEO, Matt Broussard, when he was at Calgary Stampede, and he was sitting up in the bleachers, and there was 15 people to the right, 15 people to the left. The 50-50 was on. He was like, oh, I got to walk past 20 people, go downstairs, get some cash out, and buy a ticket. So essentially he thought, there's got to be an easier way to do this. And the idea came into his head that was, I should be able to do this from my phone or from a computer, have a ticket sent to me, and that should be it. So since then, things for the company really picked up in 2019, right around when COVID started. I'd say it was really, sort of a digital shift where we couldn't get together in person. We couldn't really fundraise in the traditional way. So a lot of folks looked at our platform as a way to move it online. We're now incorporated out of Alberta, but we have offices in downtown Halifax with roots in the Maritimes. We also have a spot in Calgary. We are now registered Canada-wide. The Quebec is just approved, actually, ERS platforms. So we're just waiting to hear back from them, and then that'll be it for Canada. So we're able to operate within every province. I know there's a lot of folks here from different provinces. The other thing is we have just launched in the US as well. So we're making our way south. We're in about 14 states, starting to onboard lots of great customers down there in the various spaces. And essentially at the end of the day, we're a digital platform that enables nonprofit groups, charities, sports teams, hospitals, festivals, and events, the ability to create and manage online and in-person raffles. Our platform's accessible, saves time, and we don't really have any upfront costs. So there's really no risk at the end of the day to get one of these up and running. We do have some costs if you are going to use like our in-venue terminals, but we'll talk about that later on. So a little bit of like fundraising success in today's digital world. So a lot of us came from a background of technology. So we're in that space probably for 20 years before we pivoted into the nonprofit fundraising world. So we sort of harnessed our love for technology and created an easy to use digital platform to help sort of boost ticket sales and reach new fundraising goals for organizations. So how we do it is like through engagement. So we have features like in support of where, you know, you can drive engagement by incentivizing members to sell 50/50 tickets or prize raffles. It's just really easy to buy on your phone or computer these days. So really removing that physical aspect, I guess, in terms of selling tickets or you know, the manual work that typically is involved in fundraising in the past. And then we do a lot of marketing for clients, as well as really just, you know, boosting shares using like a unique URL or a single link and just sharing that on social networks. So there's a few groups that we work with. I know we're really central around like Newfoundland here. So we just came into Newfoundland about 6 months ago. We got things sorted out there. A couple of these that you may know of is like the Goulds Pacers, the minor hockey team. They just did about 87,000 raised on their first raffle. Avalon Volleyball Club was one that just did about 27K. We just signed a deal with the Newfoundland Growlers. They're going to be using our in-venue terminals to sell 50/50 tickets at their games. We're also in talks with the George Street Festival to run some events for them. We did the Mummers Festival as well. They raised about 1,000 over Christmas. My brother-in-law is from Newfoundland, and he was explaining to my 3-year-old what the Mummers Festival was. And for about a month, my little guy was just running around saying, "Any mummers allowed in?" So it was a good start here in Newfoundland. Just getting groups going on our platform. We do have a lot of other groups across Canada. We have about 5,000 unique organizations now that use our platform for the various services we offer. So in Newfoundland specifically, we are partnered with a company called Breton Digital Business Solutions. In order to get operating there, basically the Newfoundland Gaming wanted us to partner with a local group. So they're sort of an extension of the Rafflebox team. They provide guidance and support on getting like raffle licenses through Newfoundland Gaming. They'll provide ticket printing services. They'll also help with administrative like support on our platform. They'll help create print media because you still need to print physical tickets there. And then they really just work closely with us to ensure that we're meeting all the needs of the clients. So I'll go over some of the services we offer after this, but just from safety and security, sort of before all else, we're classified somewhat in the gambling space. So there's a lot of rigor that goes behind everything we do. So our platform gets certified by GLI. So these are standards that are set for online electronic raffle ticketing systems. So we get GLI certified. We use Stripe as our payment provider. So they're, you know, fully PCI compliant. How it works for us is essentially we never hold any of the nonprofit or charities or festivals, for example's money. It all gets directly deposited into a Stripe account that you own, and then you deposit it to your bank account. And then just from a Cloudflare is a security product we use to stop all the potential bad intruders that are out there. So what do we offer? So we offer 50/50 raffles online. So I think most people here are familiar with what a 50/50 is. So, you know, we'll create like a custom page for you. We can create like unique URLs. You'll send out the link to your page. People can buy tickets online. Essentially, winner of that gets half. Your organization keeps half less the fees. Fees are about like 7 to 10%. Like our fees are typically around 7% of total ticket sales. And then Stripe has a fee of 2.9% plus 30 cents a transaction. If you do a prize raffle, for example, which is the next one, that slide is a little bit off, but you're typically taking home around 90%. So those are, you know, say if people will do car prizes, some groups will just say, hey, we've been given something and you can use those as prizes. So at the end of the day on those prize ones, you can typically take a lot more home at the end of the day. We have like an experience one going on about the launch in Alberta where they're doing tickets to Shania Twain. You get to go meet her backstage and get the full VIP treatment. We also offer in-venue terminals. So a lot of these may be maybe more what some of the festivals and events are looking at as well. So this is an in-venue terminal that takes cash, debit, credit card, where you tap and it'll just print out the 50/50 ticket. So only takes about 30 seconds to 40 seconds for a transaction to take place. Immediately prints out the raffle ticket numbers for the ticket purchaser. You can accept multiple ways of collecting that via cash, credit, or debit, and then it can connect to Wi-Fi or cellular data. So we've ran a lot of these now. The Mooseheads are now using our platform. If you know the Halifax hockey team here, we did a really big festival in St. Tite for a rodeo. Calgary Folk Fest, we just shipped a bunch of units out to them for a couple of their events. I know there's a few other groups that have used us specifically in the festival space. So this is something that may be of interest to you going forward.
Hey, Simon, somebody has a question. If a club or society at the University of Waterloo specifically wanted to do a raffle, would they have to get a license, and what steps needs to happen prior to engaging your company?
Yeah, so is part of the organization a nonprofit? Because if they are, you need to basically go through the AGCO. So you'll have to go apply for a license online with the AGCO. Which
They're not a not-for-profit.
They're not a not-for-profit. So yeah, like really, if you typically have to be a nonprofit or charity to get a license from the Ontario government to run on these platforms. Your other option, what you can do if you're in Ontario, is you can get a license from the municipality. You can use our platform to basically take transactions, put up the web page, but you can't use some of the services that go with like the random number generator, and we're not allowed to send like ticket numbers out online. So that means that your organization, you'd have to print off tickets, mail them, and then you'd have to pick the winner manually. Usually in situations like that, you try to find a group to partner with. So a nonprofit or charity to partner with. That's typically what we've recommended in the past.
And that's in Ontario? What about the rest of Canada, like Newfoundland and the East Coast? What's happening there? Is it the same?
No, so every province is different. So in Newfoundland, you'll go through the Newfoundland gaming. What we do is when you say sign up with us, we partner you with Breton. They're pretty much going to walk you through the whole process of getting the license, and they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting right now because online is new to Newfoundland. They have a really tight relationship with the government there, and I think there's really only 2 staff at gaming. So a lot of this is still sort of being worked out. It's always a work in progress for these because it is new technology. Nova Scotia, you go through the AGD. They have a pretty streamlined process, takes about a week to get a license. Ontario does typically take the longest. Calgary's pretty fast. If you're already a nonprofit or charity there, you can get a license in about 10 minutes through their online portal. But every province has its own rules and regulations, but we've ran thousands and thousands of raffles now. And I would say, when you speak with our staff or our sales or our support team, they have all that. They have all the knowledge to get you through the getting through to get the license at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So a lot of, we can also do combination raffles. So that's where you have, like a prize. So we have groups that'll, do a car and have a 50/50, or they'll do, 2 tickets on WestJet and then they'll add a 50/50 or vice versa. So we can build like multiple prize packages. So you can have like a main prize, and then you could have maybe, 30 smaller prizes that you give out. So it's almost like a shopping cart style checkout that we have, and you can do these various add-ons. So yeah, like include a 50/50 add-on to your prize package, or vice versa. When we combo these together, we do see about an 80% conversion rate. So, they'll buy a ticket for the prize one or the experience, and then they'll buy a 50 ticket. So it's a cool new feature that we have where you can combine multiple ways to raise funds. So we also have a nice, easy, like self-serve dashboard. At the end of the day, everything that we can do for you here with our support team and sales, you can actually do on your own if it's something that you want to do. The self-serve dashboard is really super simple. We have lots of customers that, they'll run, 20, 30 raffles throughout the year. They manage their own events, easy, clean reporting. We have a lot of data in there to show like peak times of when you're selling, when's the best time to maybe send out an email to your clients. We also have a tool called Message Center that lets you essentially set a schedule and reminders to buyers. You can import pre-existing donor lists if you want. All of this data is your data. You can export it if you have to put it into any third-party systems. And it's really, really super simple at the end of the day. Our whole goal in this was trying to build a very user-friendly tool that was scalable and didn't really take a lot of time to get people up and running. We do create a custom web page. So typically how it looks is we have a write-up section, a poster section. We have real-time jackpot displays. The in supportive is a really interesting feature. So say you had 30 volunteers. Well, we can load those volunteers into the system and you can give them a unique URL that they share on social media. So it'll track the sales to them. So it's a nice way to incentivize, maybe a little bit of friendly competition. You can have the top fundraisers. So it's also great because then you have, 30 different individuals sharing on various social media platforms. So it opens up the audience a lot bigger. We'll also do like Facebook ads for you. So typically we just have you pay the cost of what you're looking to do for the ad, and our team will put that Facebook ad up, dial it into specific locations if you want, or say we're in Newfoundland, you can share that across the province, sort of opening up a wider audience or base that potentially may buy for you. We have social media links on you that you can share, and then it'll just show recent purchases, almost like a GoFundMe. A lot of times, a lot of people will say we're sort of like the GoFundMe, but for 50-50s and raffles and prizes. This Nova Scotia firefighters, you all might have heard of that one. They just recently had a almost $3 million pot at Christmas here. Somebody walked away with about $1.45 million, which was our biggest 1 week raffle yet. It did $3 million in a week. So I did sort of already speak to that in supportive feature, but it can be activated essentially where ticket buyers can select a name or a group. So you can even have like teams and then users underneath the teams, where basically all this is tracked to that individual and shows like a real-time tab. We do have like the unique URL that gets sent out for them as well. So each individual or group will receive a unique fundraising URL to share with families and friends. When one of your supporters uses it, it's tracked, it's automatically attributed to you as well. So where we use this a lot is for like minor hockey. A lot of the groups now, when the kids are raising funds, a percentage of that goes to their like registration or hockey fees. We have some kids now that have paid for like 3 years of hockey because they've raised too much through the platform. We send automated thank you emails. We send out the tickets. And a lot of groups too will have just notifications of when people bought. We also have for live events is tickers. So we can put up like large screens where it's showing like the total pot. We do this on TVs. You can plug it into your pre-existing websites. So it's nice to see sort of the real time as those pots grow. We'll set up custom domain names for you. And then a lot of this really just increases and drives traffic for you from sort of a marketing standpoint. So just to go over, like I said, the fees. We thought we didn't want to really have a barrier of entry for anybody. A lot of our competitors in the past had like setup fees. Some of those setup fees were a lot. Traditionally as well, like this type of online service wasn't really available to smaller groups just because there was a price point barrier. So we have groups that raise millions and we have groups that raise $100 and they're happy. So there's really no difference. So yeah, no upfront fees, no credit cards or minimums. We don't take anything. You know, when you sign a contract with us, you're not locked in. We believe that our service and support should speak for itself. So if you did look like you wanted to go somewhere else, you know, we're not holding you to anything. Fees do vary by province, but typically our fees are around 7%, and then it's about 3% for the Stripe fees. So just as like a breakdown for the 50-50, your organization would take home about 40% of what was raised, 90% if it was like a prize or experience and it was donated to you. And then for the 50-50s, half of it goes to the winner, of course. They're nice too, just because for example, in Newfoundland, only people within Newfoundland can buy. So it's nice to see money going back to the community as well. And then really at the end of the day, we are typically like to say we're like an extension of your fundraising team. So most individuals will have like dedicated account managers. We do offer other services. So if you're looking for additional, say, marketing types of services, we sort of have like an a la carte menu. If you want us to do custom emails for you, larger type of media campaigns, we can do that as well. We have a full support team. So one of the things is there's not a lot of work to get these set up. We do a lot of the heavy lifting. All we look for at the end of the day is really your organizations to like share, promote, and market it. The rest of it really just takes care of itself. We also have a support desk. So buyers, if there is any ticket buyer issues, they're not coming to you. They're going to email support or come through the chat, and we'll handle and look at those issues as they come in. So it's a really, we wanted to make it, like I said, super simple, not a lot of heavy lifting on your end. Like really once it's set up, typically it's like 5 days turnaround. Once you have your license, we'll help create the posters for you. Like I said, we'll do most of that work to get everything up and running. And then the success is really in like sharing it on social media, building that hype, and you know, for those live events, really having a lot of sellers, for example, like the Winnipeg Folk Fest, they had I think 12 people going around just with a QR code, and they did well over 100,000 on their first one, just having people scan the QR code, buy the ticket online. So that's all I really had. I'm open for any questions, or I can let Mark go and we can answer anything at the end.
Why don't we let Mark, give Mark his space, and then we'll move on. But I just want to let you know, there was a comment from Adriana. I really enjoy that some of the platforms seem similar to the Canadian Cancer Society's Relay for Life platforms, but with raffles.
Yeah, we're actually working with them right now on a couple, the Canadian Cancer Society, I think. I'd have to check. There's so many now, but I believe they are running some currently.
Wonderful. All right, thanks for that, Simon. And we will ask Mark to pick up from here, and then we'll do a joint conversation and see what kind of questions that come up from that. Over to you, Mark.
Sounds great. Thank you, Debbie. And thanks for that, Simon. It's great to see the evolution. I've seen Raffle Blocks now a few times. It's great to see the evolution and how you're continuing to grow, which is awesome.
Thank you.
So my name is Mark Jordan. I'm the sector lead for community at TipTap, which for us includes festivals, events. And my background is I actually grew up in the marketing and advertising world before jumping into the not-for-profit space, always with a foot in digital. So TipTap is kind of the bringing together for me personally of a few things: creativity and creative fundraising, obviously the technology piece, and then we're a for-purpose company, so the giving back aspect of what we do. I also have just a few slides with some examples to share, which hopefully, if you haven't seen TipTap, will inspire and give some thought starters. So just let me share my screen here. Okay, I'll begin just by saying, why does TipTap exist? And simply put, the world is slowly but surely going cashless. We've seen this trend over the past, 5+ years. In fact, our founder, so fun fact, the tip in TipTap is actually rooted in the origin story of the company, where our founder was actually having an interaction in a hospitality situation where, and we've all been there, he just had no cash on him. So started a conversation. Can I run back up to the front desk? Can I, make a payment there? No, we don't do that. Well, do you have a point of sale terminal? I can, use my card or my phone to pay you. Sorry, we don't do that. So that was his eureka moment, that there was something missing. And from day one, so Chris will also say he forgets when the company idea originally originated. Suffice to say, we've been around at least 4 years now. And in that time, we've now worked with over 500 organizations, thousands of programs across North America. And I'm going to show you some examples of the work we've been doing. So I always like to try and make, stats are one thing. The world's going cashless, yes. I think we all probably have our own stories. This is my story. I would say 2 years ago, I would have said, the only cash I have is, the $5 in my wallet that I might have taken out on, March 10th, 2020, or whenever that date was that we all remember. Now it's literally, I have coins in the car for when I go to the grocery store, and you still have grocery stores where they'll ask you to put, a quarter, or more likely these days, a loonie, chalk it up to inflation, I guess, into the cart. That is literally the only cash that I handle or carry on a regular basis. So simply put, TipTap exists to replace that lost cash and coin. Simply put, that's why we exist. We kind of have 3 modes that we operate in. So tap to give, which is obviously our donation and giving back, charity aspect of what we do, working with organizations where there's a charitable angle and a donation component. Tap to tip, going back to the origin story, there's many scenarios we're working in right now, and I know tipping is also a big topic these days in general as the evolution of tipping continues. What's socially acceptable, et cetera, what's the cultural norm. Getting into more and more hospitality type scenarios and venues and festivals where there might be a tipping component. And then the last thing we do at the end of the day, like to strip it down, we're a payment solution that we're using in different modes. So tap to pay, and you might imagine in like a venue or a festival event scenario where you're trying to line bust and help people get to the music, to whatever you're offering, and not standing in a line waiting to pay for their merchandise, their beer, their food, etc. So those are kind of the 3 modes that we can work in. We offer the ability to tap using anything that you currently have in your wallet. So we're not asking guests or donors to now suddenly use something different. They can take out their card, or more and more now, people using their mobile wallet, which will automatically work on a TipTap device. So really trying to democratize accessibility to be able to tap and engage with the solution. I'm just going to play a short video. So a couple of things you'll have seen in there. First of all, the different modes that we can operate in. Every device also has a fixed denomination, and that's by design. So there's no kind of humming and hawing as you walk up to a display. What you see is what you tap. And we can offer devices all the way up, as you saw with that ballet example, 250, which is the tap limit currently in Canada. So I'll start just a few examples to bring to life, and this hopefully maybe gives you some thought starters. Like I said, I'd like to start always at the beginning, and Salvation Army was one of our very first clients and customers. And if you know TipTap at all, you'll probably know us for two things. One, Tim Hortons, which you saw in the video, and the other is our work with Salvation Army. So we're now across Canada, and also starting to work nationwide in the US with Salvation Army. So obviously the kettle is the big focus of what they're doing, but as you can see here, we also have helped them bring to life events. This was a kickoff launch event for the kettle campaign a couple of years ago. So integrating it more and more into their year-round giving, as well as the kettle campaign, which is obviously the iconic fundraiser for them. I like to share this example because I'm sure you probably have things you're already doing that you might be actually able to transform into a giving moment using TipTap. So this example is actually from the Vancouver Christmas Market. It's run twice now, this past year and year before. Basically what they did is they decided, this carousel that has been there, I think for 13 years, they decided 2 years ago, we're actually going to put a stand there, and they had a couple of volunteers with our wearable devices and asked people for a suggested donation to ride the carousel. So again, not a barrier, you could walk by this and still use the carousel, but nudging people to, make a donation, in this case, to Make-A-Wish. Last year, they raised enough to grant 6 wishes. So including a matching gift from Interac, the partner that was involved in this. So I mention it because I always like to say, you don't have to run out and get your own carousel. And I'm sure you've got things you're already doing. We're just looking at it slightly differently, and introducing a simple to use tap option can help you generate donations, tips, or potentially even payments.
Hey, Mark, before you continue, there's a quick question.
Please.
How sensitive are the taps? So one is, the devices have Wi-Fi and cellular. There's also, oh no, that's Simon answered that one. But Zelda asked, is it Wi-Fi self-sufficient? So even at the farthest hole on a golf course that might not have its own internet access, will there still be access? So I know Simon answered.
Yeah, my apologies on that. I thought.
No, thanks.
To me,
no, that's okay.
Yeah, so for an in-venue terminal, there's offline mode. But sorry, you go ahead, Mark. I apologize there.
No, that's all good. The TipTap device actually runs off the cell network. So there is no Wi-Fi connection. You don't need to configure it. You actually just power it up, and it's got a built-in SIM card, the same way your phone connects. So the only caveat is, if you're on a golf course or a somewhat more remote location, all the devices actually do operate across the country. If you can get 2 bars on your cell phone, the TipTap device will connect. So you do not need to connect them to the internet or connect them to a Wi-Fi.
And somebody asked, how sensitive are the taps? If someone were to walk close with their wallet, would it pick up on any cards?
Fantastic question. So the technology and the actual experience is no different than when you're in your local grocery store, or Tim Hortons for that matter, and you use your card at cash. You actually have to physically hold your card or your phone for a few seconds for it to actually be recognized. There's a pause, and then a few seconds later, the transaction goes through. And in the case of a grocery store or Tim Hortons, that's when the screen at register changes, you get your receipt, etc. It's the same technology that we're applying. So there is no, just brush up against someone and you will have somehow captured their card. The device doesn't work that way.
Wonderful, thanks. Another question, what cellular network do they run off of? Rogers? And I guess it depends where you are. That's from Lunenburg.
Great question. Rogers and TELUS we work with. And simply put, they roam. So they basically pick the strongest connection based on where they are.
Wonderful. That's great.
This next example I like because it's grassroots, and it also illustrates, again, bringing to life, donation capability at a festival or event. This is Rib Fest in Waterloo, or Craft Beer and Rib Fest, where Food Bank of Waterloo Region actually used just 2 of our devices over a weekend and collected enough for 3,500 meals. So again, it's similar to what Simon was saying. A lot of the basic principles of fundraising still apply here. If I were to put this device that I'm holding in my hand out on a counter or on a booth, or just hold it in my hand, there's no context for it, right? It has to be brought to life, and we do that through the signage and the displays. And then the organizations we work with bring that to life through their own activation, whether it be through volunteers, promoting it, those types of things. I love this example because one of the things that we like to say is we try to bring moments of joy to people who use TipTap, both on the organization side, but also on the tapper side of things. This is something we did actually with the Calgary Stampede. And you can't see it because the card and the arm is actually covering the sign. But on the display, we actually had a light up meter that lit up, and a sound effect, which you wouldn't be able to hear through a picture, obviously, where when the transaction went through, it said "Yeehaw." So we like to build these moments of joy and make it fun. This was a great example of working with in this case, Stampede, to do something a little bit more custom for them. And TipTap works everywhere. One of the things we recognize, while cash is disappearing, there are still people who carry cash. So I share this example. This is a Toronto Fringe Festival last summer where they used TipTap for tap to tip the fringe. You'll see we actually have a solution. We call it the parade bucket because that's how it started, being used for collections along parade routes. Organizations are using it where they know their guests and people coming to the festival still are going to have cash on hand, but they'll be able to offer up as well the tap option. We also like,
Sorry, Mark.
Sorry, go ahead, Debbie.
So Leanna is asking again, how does the money get to your bank account? I'm sure that's part of your presentation. Are you going to get
great
there?
Question. It's a great question. I can answer it now. So
okay.
simply put, each device or set of devices is connected to your bank account through a merchant processor. We work with Moneris and Global Payments, are our 2 partners in Canada. So basically, they do the handshake. We're not a merchant processor, nor are we a bank. They do the handshake between the devices and your bank account. The nice thing is, once you're set up, you're set up. So if you're using these devices, as more and more of our partners are, either throughout the year, multi-month, or year over year, I used it for the Fringe last year, we're coming back next year, you're set up. Once you're set up, you're set up. But yeah, it's a secure, obviously Moneris and Global Payments recognized in the space, secure connection. We like to say we are TipTap proud. We actually worked with over 23 LGBTQ plus organizations last year, including a couple of Pride parades. So this one was in Ottawa. We also were in the Pride parade here in Toronto. And again, very effective. You can see a couple of our volunteers here with the selfie sticks. You could literally extend the selfie stick out into the crowd and capture donations even as the parade was moving along. So we're doing more this year. So look for us again across more Pride events this year. And then I just wanted to share a couple of more examples before I kind of wrap up here. I talked about line busting. So thinking about using the solution for, it might be a coat check, a bag check. This is actually MLSE, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment at the BMO Field in Toronto. They're now using TipTap at Scotiabank Arena for every event, actually, not just sporting, all their concerts. So when you check your bag, you're tapping to pay. And then my last example, and I did see there were a couple of museums, I think, on the call. Call it Exit Through the Gift Shop, if you're a fan of that Banksy documentary. We are powering donations at both local and national museums, including just launched before the holidays in the US, the Smithsonian. For those in the museum space, you will know if I mention that, the due diligence that they have to go through as a government organization, we were certified and approved by them. So we're now at the National Air and Space and slowly but surely rolling out. We have 40 museums, as you know, in the States. Last points I'll make, and then I'll close. At the end of the day, why would you consider using TipTap? It's all about that split-second donor experiences, no waiting. It's 3 seconds, you're done. You can tap multiple times on a device. We talk a lot about the donations we drive or the payments we drive. There's also a reduced administration cost on handling cash, as well as the security around handling cash. It's safer transactions. Again, we're working with all the card issuers and the banks and Moneris and Global Payments, as I mentioned. And we also have an online dashboard where you're able to see in real time. So the funds get transferred to your bank account through Moneris and Global Payments, but in real time at a festival event, you could be seeing how your collections are doing. We show you by location, by time, by card used. You can set up your own campaigns. So if you have multiple devices at a location, you can actually tag them to know this one is at the entrance, this one is at the booth, et cetera, et cetera. And then the last thing I'll say is, we are secure and certified, which I know is extremely important when you talk about a payment device where you're dealing with people's financial information and transaction data. So we have been certified, PCI certified. We've been through the card compliance certification. We don't actually collect or store any personal information. And does it work? The last thing I'll say, this is the last thing I'll say is, yes, we collect 4 times more than cash, 3 times more than PayPal. And we've seen, while QR codes are extremely effective for getting you to a menu or information, they're less effective when you're driving to a payment solution. Actually, our partners at Visa have done quite a bit of research around this. So we are finding we're actually 6 times more effective than a QR code.
Wow. And
I'll stop there.
Perfect. A couple of questions. This is real. You guys, I just love listening to you both. Zelda wants to know charity tax receipts for donations. Is this relevant? I know the answer. Well, I knew the answer to that. I don't know if it's still the same answer.
That's a fantastic question. So because the majority of our denominations that most organizations use are $20 and below, what we're finding is there is no tax receipt, and we replace our tax receipt requirement or ask. We replace, if you were, using the Salvation Army as an example, before you were putting a $20 bill into the kettle. Now you're tapping on a $20 device. When you were putting that $20 bill into the kettle, you weren't standing there and waiting for a receipt from the bell ringer. And they're seeing, as you might imagine, across, just as one example, hundreds of thousands of taps, no request for receipt. Now, when you look at some of those higher denominations I was showing, 50, 100, 250, absolutely, there's a tax receipt that donor is probably going to want. You're using those in a more controlled scenario. So that ballet example, for example, there was a QR code on the side which said if you need a tax receipt, scan this, you could enter all your information, away you go. We're at a gala, that type of scenario. You're going to use them in a more controlled environment where you can actually get people's information to be able to issue a tax receipt. But just know that, yeah, $20 and below, we're seeing no requests for tax receipts.
Simon, do you want to answer that from a raffle box perspective?
Yeah. From our standpoint, it is gaming. You're winning something, right? So regardless, on the 50-50, like you don't get any taxable receipts in the space that we're in. Yeah, it's not classified as a donation because you are opting to potentially pay money to win something at the end of the day.
Okay, thanks. Another couple of other questions for Mark. Would we have access to data that will identify which monetary value is most often used, i.e. 2, 5, or 20?
Great question. Yes, so we break down and show you the most frequently tapped in your campaign or for your organization. And there's some interesting insights that you'll garner from that. So I'll share one. When we use 3 devices, like the Salvation Army, those displays with 3 devices, typically 50%, this is across all programs, by the way, 50% of taps are coming from the lowest denomination, which kind of makes sense. Human behavior, right? If you give me options, I'll start at the bottom. But interestingly, 25% are coming from the middle and 25% are coming from the top. So in the case of a 5, 10, or a 20, because 20, obviously 4 times 5, your donations or your payments are actually being driven by the 20, not the 5. So your insights will be, unique to you, but absolutely you get visibility into how are people tapping? What are they tapping?
I also know one of our members is a busker. Well, many of our members are buskers, but buskers are using it now instead of cash, which I think is really interesting.
That's right. Yeah. We actually did some work with Busker Fest here in Toronto, helping them raise funds for their charity of choice. And a perfect use case, right? You think about it. People used to have the box or the hats in front of them.
Yep.
Now you can just have a little stand.
Yep, which is really great. Also curious if you know of smaller organizations that have used TipTap successfully.
Oh, definitely. Like when I show examples, I always caveat, Salvation Army, one of the largest we work with, but we work with organizations all the way down to, mom and pop, not-for-profits. And what we've found, again, irrespective of size, you're looking at about a 3 to 5 times return on your investment. Meaning, if you invest $1 into the TipTap platform, you're going to see $3 to $5 returned in terms of what you're going to see from taps. And that's not large programs, that's across the board. Scale it. If you're a small organization raising $1,000 at an event, $500 at an event, it's the same 3 to 5 as Salvation Army raising, a couple of million.
Wonderful. What are the fees associated with TipTap?
Great question. Simply put, there's 2 components to our model. One is the device. We don't actually sell them, we lease them. So think of us like the Netflix of payment solutions. There's a monthly subscription fee. And then there's a transaction fee on the total funds that are raised, and that's 5%.
So what's the subscription fee? Does that depend on how many units you have, or okay?
It depends on the number of units and how long you are actually using the units for. So we have organizations who, will take devices. Doesn't have to be, again, hundreds of devices. They'll take a few devices, but they'll keep them year round because they know they're going to be doing things all throughout the year. That would impact the leasing fee. It starts at $35 per device per month. Okay. It only goes down. That's the high watermark.
Okay. And are they rechargeable? Are they, so if somebody's bringing them in, is it just like a phone that you recharge it? And
that's a great question. The actual device has no battery inside it. It's run off of either you plug it in, or obviously at a festival or event, you're not going to be running extension cords or may not have access to power. So they actually run off a high capacity battery that lasts approximately a day. So in a festival scenario, you build this into your daily routine when you're closing up for the day. Just make sure you're charging the batteries. But yeah, they run off of external high capacity.
And that's part of the rental, the fee. Okay.
Correct.
And if someone were to accidentally donate multiple times, is it easy to refund?
Yes, it is. On your dashboard, you would be able to see the multiple transactions, and you would basically, again, because we're not the bank nor the merchant processor, you would work with either Moneris or Global Payments, whoever you decide to work with, and they would refund. And
it would be up to the client to make sure all that happens.
Yeah, correct. We don't, it's their money and ultimately their relationship with the merchant processor. Okay. Correct.
Can you get TipTap on a trial basis to try it out?
Well, we have no minimum So if you wanted to try it out, my suggestion would be, look at an event or a month. Again, our minimum is a month. We don't rent the devices for a day or a week, but we could certainly work with you on let's test something out at a particular event or a particular month that you have things going on. Absolutely.
All right. Any questions? So we still have about 10 minutes. Are there any other questions for Simon, for Mark? I will say Simon, Mark, and I are working together to roll out Rafflebox and Tip Tap Pay at our conference in March. Pretty excited. We've got some really great prizes for the raffle. And Mark suggested that we do a mystery bag. So we're going to have a number of mystery bags, and I've got a lot of prizes to put into them. And people, instead of us working with cash, we're just going to have the Tip Tap, and you pay $25 and see what you get. So I'm pretty excited to see how it all works.
Yeah, we're really excited as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that idea. That's a cool idea. The mystery bag, tap, what you get. Yeah, I like it.
Yep. And we've got some really exciting prizes for the raffle. So I'm just, and we're hoping to, open that up across Ontario. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. Any more questions, any comments? Feel free to just raise your hand and pop on.
Just out of curiosity, I can do my research and homework, but are you guys connected anyway with the University of Waterloo?
Tip Tap or Rafflebox?
Either or.
At this point in time, I'd have to check. I don't think we are, but I'd have to check with one of our reps.
Simon, I'm on the call.
Oh, Mark, yeah, you're here. Yeah.
Sorry, Zella, I was just answering your message. I'm not, but it doesn't mean I can't be. I'm going to put my email in there for you and shoot me an email and we can connect on that.
Great. Yeah, I would love to set up a session like this, like for the student bodies, or you were saying grant funding on campus. I think it'd be a great tool to use. There's
another product that might be interesting to you too, is we're doing employee 50/50s now. So you can like run an internal one with staff. We're starting talks with like Dalhousie out here as well, where anybody who's employed by the university, you could run a program internally and there'd be ways to use those funds. So that might be another thing Mark can talk to you about.
United Way, yeah, I could see lots.
Yeah, United Way, we are partnered with most of the United Ways, and they do a lot of campaigns in the fall. And then basically they'll get the license for whoever wants to do the fundraising on their behalf. We build the page, and then they typically just share like the page within, say, the university, and you just do your fundraising. That's how they do a lot of their fundraising. So
yeah, I see lots like orientation week, like stuff like that, tap and go, like just for that 1 week. And if the university can kind of be like the mother of it, and then the groups and the societies and students can work underneath it, it would be a fabulous opportunity.
Yeah,
for everyone.
I think like what's really important there is having, like, say the university owned it. That's the most important part, is like having individuals sort of like push it out and drive the initiative. But no, yeah, definitely Mark can reach out to you. There's a lot of different opportunities for sure. We do a lot of fundraising for schools, parent teacher associations. So yeah, definitely there's a fit there.
Yeah, student council. Yeah, there's so many opportunities. Sounds good. Thank you.
Mark and Simon, would you mind just putting your email address into the chat for them? And I will be I know, Mark, you may have a comment here. Just want to let you know that I will be sending out an email to all of you with their contact information as well. Mark, did you want to add to that for Zelda?
Yes. So what I will say is I don't believe we work directly with the University of Waterloo, but we have worked indirectly in a few ways. We've done quite a bit in the Waterloo region with our foundation, including engaging students from Waterloo in that. And we're also doing programs like Shinorama. which I'd have to look back and see if U of Waterloo was involved this past year. But definitely student groups, again, using it for student associations, fundraising on campus, absolutely. Part of our wheelhouse for sure.
Any other questions? Well, I just
One question.
Yeah.
My business is seasonal, but I would, I think the Tip Tap option would be fantastic for fundraising for both sides of my business that work in. So for the monthly fee, if we're not open through the winter and we're not using the devices, how would that work? Is there like a reduction in fee, or do we send it back and then re-get it?
Yeah, great question. You simply return the devices. So we have a very Amazon-like experience where you got a return shipping label, you're done, you send them back to us, and then when you're ready to re-engage and you've got another event or another scenario you want to use them, we would just work with you again. Now, the nice thing, like I said before, is a lot of that upfront work that you will do for that first time, when it's done, it's done. So the next time around, it'll likely be, we're sending you, just the devices in an envelope type of scenario.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Going once. Oh, sweet. When I get Debbie's email, I will follow up. I see it also as a good opportunity for cross-pollination between the university and community partners and festivals. So wonderful. Thanks, Zelda. All right. So thank you all so much for joining us. Darlene, thanks for making this happen.
Thank you.
Just for all of you, there will be a survey at the end. So before you log off, when I go off, you'll get a survey. If you can fill out the survey for us so that GMIST has some feedback on how to, what other sessions you would like to see in the future on this. So thank you, everyone. Simon and Mark, thank you so much for your participation and support. And we'll see you March. There's also March 23rd. We're going to be talking about how to energize your audience with Marnie Lapierre. And so that's going to be a great session as well. The registration is open for that as well. So
Thanks, everybody.